My brother-in-law called me a walking ATM at my sister's barbecue. She laughed like it was true. 3 days later, he stole my Tesla. So I locked him out mid-drive and froze every account he'd ever touched. You ever laugh at a joke that cuts too close, just so you don't make it worse? That's what I did, sitting in my sister Samantha's backyard with a red plastic cup in one hand and my dignity slipping out of the other. My name's Ezra. I'm 38, live in Tempe, Arizona, and I've worked my way into a decent life. Got my own business, a small investment firm, nothing flashy, but stable. That night, though, none of it mattered. Not the work, not the long hours, not the fact that I'd paid for the grill they were cooking on in the backyard Reno that everyone loved so much. All that counted was the punchline of a joke. Wyatt, my brother-in-law, was holding court, like he always did. He's loud, slick, always got some smart-ass comment ready. This time, he pointed at me across the picnic table, his beer sloshing in his hand. Ezra here's basically a walking ATM, he said, grinning. Only difference is, I don't need a pin to get his money. The table exploded. Samantha laughed, not the fake, uncomfortable kind, but the open mouth, head thrown back kind. Even our mom, Isla, let out a little chuckle, covering it with a sip of wine. The cousins joined in. Hell, even great Aunt Patsy cackled. And me? I smiled. I laughed, like it was the funniest thing I'd ever heard. Like it didn't slice right through me. Inside, I was burning. It wasn't the first time Wyatt made a joke like that, and it definitely wouldn't be the last. He's borrowed a little something more times than I can count. Car payments, rent help, temporary cash for a new business idea. He always came to me, and I always gave in, because saying no meant drama. And our family specializes in guilt, the kind that comes dressed as love and tradition but we're family, right? I stayed for another half hour, pretending everything was fine. Made a little small talk. Smiled when Samantha offered me more food. Hugged Mom goodbye. But on the drive home, something shifted. I kept hearing Wyatt's voice, laughing, calling me an ATM. I kept seeing Samantha's face, the way she laughed along like it was true. And maybe to them, it was. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, and for the first time, I thought, this stops now. Not tomorrow. Not after the next favor. Now. I didn't know what I was going to do yet. But I knew one thing for sure. I was done laughing. 3 days later, I came home from a long client lunch to find my Tesla missing from the driveway. At first, I thought maybe I'd parked it on the street. I even walked a few houses down, feeling like an idiot. Then I checked the app. Vehicle in motion. Wyatt. I knew it before I even hit the tracking button. I had given him access months ago, back when his own car was in the shop and I was trying to be helpful. I forgot to revoke it. He must have just walked up, opened it, and drove off like it was his. A minute later, my phone buzzed with a text. Wyatt, chill, bro. Just taking her for a spin. You always let me borrow stuff. Love ya. No ask. No heads up. Not even a, hey, you cool with this? Just straight up entitlement, like my property existed for his convenience. I didn't reply. Instead, I stood in the middle of my empty driveway and realized something. Wyatt didn't just disrespect my stuff. He disrespected me. And the worst part? Everyone else let him. Samantha would say, that's just Wyatt. Mom would call it borrowing. They'd all shrug and expect me to keep smiling, keep enabling. Because Ezra always comes through. Not this time. I walked into my house, straight past the kitchen, past the half-eaten lunch on the counter, and into my office. I grabbed my duffel from the closet and started packing. Not for a trip, not yet. Just what I needed for a few nights away. I wasn't sure where I was going, but I knew I wasn't staying here and letting myself be this easy anymore. I opened my laptop and got to work. First, I logged into the Tesla app and disabled remote access. Then I triggered the security protocol to lock the car and send a message to the screen. This vehicle is no longer available. Owner has revoked access. Within minutes, my phone rang. Wyatt. I let it go to voicemail. Then I called my bank. I flagged the car under unauthorized use, just to start a paper trail. After that, I opened up every shared account, every joint purchase or co-signed item I'd been roped into over the years. My name was everywhere. It was disgusting. That night, I checked into a quiet hotel on the edge of town. No frills, just clean sheets and silence. I turned off my phone and stared at the ceiling. I wasn't mad. I wasn't even hurt anymore. I was awake. Let them laugh. Let them think I'm being dramatic. They've lived too long off my willingness to keep the peace. But now? Now, I'm not the one who has to keep anything. By the next morning, my phone was blowing up. 5 missed calls from Wyatt. 2 voicemails from Samantha. One from my mom, Isla, that started with, "Sweetheart, I'm sure this is just a misunderstanding," and ended with a passive-aggressive sigh that said otherwise. I ignored them all. Instead, I ordered room service, eggs and black coffee, and sat down with my laptop. This wasn't revenge. It was cleanup. Years of mess I had let pile up while convincing myself that keeping the peace was worth the cost. I opened a spreadsheet and started listing everything Wyatt had touched: the Tesla, the joint credit card Samantha once asked me to open, just in case, the personal loan I had co-signed when he tried to start that failed landscaping business, and even the high-limit card I forgot he still had access to. He had been spending. Quietly, regularly, and often. Some charges were stupid: fast food, streaming subscriptions, random Amazon junk. But others were worse: hotel stays, equipment rentals, thousands in purchases that made it look like he was prepping for a lifestyle I didn't sign up to fund. I got on the phone with the bank and started the process to dispute and freeze anything tied to my name. The rep was kind but skeptical. "Are you saying these were unauthorized?" "I'm saying I never gave him permission to open new cards in my name," I said. "And I have emails proving it." When I hung up, I sat back and stared at the ceiling. Wyatt had turned my goodwill into a resource, something to drain, not something to value. And the worst part? I'd let it happen. Around noon, Wyatt finally left a voicemail I bothered to listen to. "Ezra, man, what the hell? I'm stuck at some charging station and the car won't move. This isn't funny. Reset the damn thing." He sounded more confused than angry, like he couldn't fathom that I'd actually shut the door on him, as if the idea that Ezra might draw a line was unthinkable. Then Samantha called. Her voice was stiff, the kind she used when pretending she wasn't pissed. "Hey, Ezra, Wyatt's stranded and says you disabled the Tesla? What's going on? Can you just let us use it until the weekend's over?" "It's not a big deal." I deleted the message. That night, I sat on the hotel balcony with a cheap beer and listened to the cars on the freeway. I wasn't celebrating. I wasn't even angry anymore. What I felt was clarity. This wasn't about Wyatt. Not really. It was about the system the whole family had built around me, the expectations, the jokes, the casual requests that always came with a smile and a shrug. And I had been feeding it. I'd been afraid to rock the boat for so long, I didn't realize I was the one drowning. Not anymore. I took one last sip of my beer and opened my email. Time to loop in my lawyer. If Wyatt thought being locked out of the Tesla was bad, he was in for a much bigger surprise. By Monday morning, I was sitting across from my lawyer, Denise Cartwright, in her downtown office. She had been my estate and business attorney for years, sharp, no nonsense, and not the type to waste time with pleasantries. "You should have come to me 2 years ago," she said, flipping through the growing pile of paperwork I'd brought. But better late than never. We sat in silence for a while as she skimmed the documents, raising an eyebrow every time something new came up. She paused when she hit the stack of credit card statements. "This one's opened in your name?" "Apparently. Found out last night," I said. "That one has over $9,000 in charges. I didn't even know it existed." She exhaled slowly and scribbled something in her notes. "That's identity theft, Ezra. This isn't just family drama anymore. It's criminal." I leaned back in the chair, letting her words settle. Criminal. Not careless. Not unfortunate. Criminal. When she finally looked up, her expression was firm. "We'll start by freezing everything tied to you. Then we'll file a police report. You need an official record." She gathered the stack into a single folder. "And you'll want to keep documenting everything. Every message, every voicemail, every time he shows up. Don't delete a thing." That same afternoon, Wyatt started texting like his life depended on it. "Bro, can we talk? I swear I didn't mean to overstep. Please just let me explain. Don't bring lawyers into this. It's family." I didn't reply. That night, he showed up at my house. I wasn't there. I had moved into a long-stay hotel, but the doorbell cam caught everything. He tried the spare key, tried the back door, walked around the house twice, pacing, calling my name. I saved the footage and forwarded it to Denise. Then came the breaking point, a notification from my credit monitoring service. Someone had applied for 2 new cards in my name in the past week. One of them was already approved. I called the issuer and requested the application details. It was Wyatt's email address, his phone number, and my social security number. That was it. The final nail. The total damage? Denise tallied it all up in a spreadsheet. Between the car, the fraudulent loans, credit card charges, and the sketchy rental scams I'd just begun to uncover, over $162,000. It didn't even feel real. "Any of this recoverable?" I asked. Denise tilted her head. "Maybe. Depends on how deep we go. But honestly, if we file civil and criminal charges, we can do a lot more than recover cash. We can end this." She didn't say it like a threat. She said it like a promise. And for the first time in weeks, I felt a weight lift. Not because Wyatt was going to pay, though I hoped he would, but because the truth was no longer a secret I had to carry alone. I had paper trails. I had recordings. I had enough to expose him for what he really was. A fraud. But what hit hardest wasn't Wyatt's actions. It was mine. The years I had spent turning a blind eye. The gut feelings I'd ignored. The times I'd said, "It's just money," instead of calling it what it was, exploitation. I had let it happen. I had enabled it. But that version of me? He was done. I didn't expect them to take my side. But I didn't expect them to turn on me so quickly either. 2 days after I met with Denise, Samantha called. Her tone was sharp, rehearsed. You're really doing this? You're letting a stupid misunderstanding tear the family apart? I didn't answer right away. I wanted to see if she'd hear how ridiculous she sounded. Wyatt made mistakes, she continued, her voice getting tight. But calling lawyers? Pressing charges? You're making this 1,000 times worse than it needs to be. I laughed, just once. Bitter and short. You think I'm the one who broke this family? She didn't reply. I could hear Mom in the background. Muffled voices. A shared script. He's your brother-in-law, Samantha finally snapped. And you're acting like he's some criminal stranger. He's both, I said calmly. You just don't want to admit it. The next morning, I got a text from Mom. Isla, this is cruel, Ezra. You're humiliating your sister. Ruining our name. Please come to your senses. Right. Because protecting myself was the problem, not Wyatt stealing from me for years. That same day, Denise sent over another bombshell. Wyatt had been renting out my vacation house in Flagstaff without permission, pocketing the income, booking it under aliases, collecting deposits, using photos I'd uploaded to a family group chat months ago. He hadn't just crossed a line, he built a business off me. I forwarded the evidence to Samantha. She left it on read. Then came the next wave of Wyatt's texts. This time they weren't friendly. I didn't steal from you. You're blowing this up. Think about what this does to everyone, not just me. If you go through with this, I swear, Ezra, it won't just affect me. I showed them to Denise. She added them to the file. But what really got to me wasn't Wyatt's pathetic threats. It was the fact that Samantha and Mom were defending him through all of it, acting like I was the one destroying the family, when all I'd done was stop funding the dysfunction. That weekend, I sat alone in my apartment, drinking coffee and watching the sun crawl across the kitchen floor. I used to get a sick feeling in my chest every time I imagined cutting them off. The guilt, the fallout, the isolation. But now, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. For years, I thought being a good brother meant sacrifice. That protecting the family meant ignoring the damage. But now I saw it clearly. They hadn't cared about keeping the family whole. They cared about keeping me in my place. So I stopped answering their calls. Stopped replying to texts. Stopped explaining myself to people who didn't want to hear the truth. I wasn't their fixer anymore. I wasn't their ATM. I was done. It was Mila who found it. She was sitting on the couch, cross-legged in sweatpants, scrolling on her laptop while I sorted through a stack of legal documents Denise had dropped off that morning. Mila's good like that, calm under pressure, focused. A natural researcher. She used to work in background checks for insurance claims, so she knows how to dig. Ezra, she said, without looking up, you might want to come see this. I walked over. She tilted the screen toward me. It was a message board thread, buried in a local finance watchdog forum. A user describing how their elderly parents had been scammed out of their savings by a man promising them high-yield returns through a family-backed loan program. The name? Wyatt Carson. My jaw clenched. Keep going. Mila nodded. Already did. 3 more posts. Same pattern. He targeted retirees, single moms, even a church treasurer. Told each of them the funds were guaranteed. Said he had a partner, a successful investor who co-signed everything. She looked at me. Guess who the partner is? I didn't need to guess. She opened another tab and pulled up a scan of a forged document. My name, my old signature, even my business logo copy-pasted into the corner. He's been running this scheme for at least 2 years, Mila said. Using your name and credibility to sell fake loans. My first reaction wasn't anger. It was cold. Still, like something had locked into place inside me. This isn't just about me anymore, I said. Mila nodded. Nope. He's hurting other people now. Vulnerable ones. That changed everything. I wasn't just cutting him off. I was exposing him. That evening, I texted Denise and sent her everything Mila had compiled. Links. Screenshots. Names of victims. She called me 10 minutes later. This is enough to build a full case, she said. Wire fraud. Forgery. Identity theft. Elder abuse, if we can prove he targeted seniors. Ezra, this is huge. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt resolved. And yet, through all this, Samantha was still defending him. She'd sent me a voice message earlier that day. You're obsessed with tearing him down. You're letting this consume you. Wyatt's made mistakes, but this is overkill. I didn't reply. Because Samantha didn't want the truth. She wanted the lie to stay intact. She wanted the story where Wyatt was a little reckless and I was the mean brother who took things too far. But that story was over. Wyatt wasn't a leech. He wasn't just a manipulator. He was a scammer. A con artist who had built an entire second life using my name and my silence. He had 2 phones. 2 addresses. A storage unit under a fake LLC Mila found tied to a mailbox rental place. He had a second girlfriend. Mila even found her Instagram. Pictures of weekend getaways, new clothes, expensive dinners. All on my name. That night, I sat on my balcony, phone in hand, staring out over the city. Not out of sadness, but with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. Wyatt wasn't my problem anymore. He was a criminal, and I was going to take him down, not out of revenge, but because it was the right thing to do. They all showed up like it was an ambush. Samantha had texted, "We need to talk. Everyone's coming to your place tonight. 7 p.m. No question mark. No asking. Just a statement, like this was still her show to run. I thought about ignoring it. But then I realized this was the moment. The one I'd been moving toward ever since Wyatt called me a walking ATM, and they all laughed like that was just who I was. So I let them come. At exactly 6:57 p.m., the doorbell rang. I opened it to a full crowd. Samantha, our mother Isla, Uncle Ray, Aunt Michelle, 2 cousins I hadn't seen in months, and, most shockingly, 3 people I didn't recognize at first. Victims. The ones Mila had tracked down. The church treasurer. The woman who'd lost 10 grand off a fake investment pitch. A retired teacher from Sun City. And last, trailing in behind the whole circus, was Wyatt. He looked nervous. For the first time since this all started, his usual smirk wasn't glued to his face. He wore a nice shirt, like that could make him look less guilty. Like this was just a misunderstanding we could all laugh about later. Everyone settled into the living room like it was some kind of intervention. Samantha stood up first, arms crossed. "This has gone too far, Ezra. You're ruining lives. You've dragged innocent people into this. And for what? To prove a point?" "No," I said calmly. "To show the truth." I walked over to the coffee table, pulled out a folder, and opened it slowly. One by one, I began laying out the documents, forged contracts, fake loan agreements, screenshots of fake emails, copies of applications for credit cards I never authorized. "This," I said, holding up the stack, "is what your husband has been doing with my name." Wyatt let out a laugh. Too quick. Too forced. "Come on, man. That's not even a—" "Shut up," I said, cold and flat. He froze. I looked at Samantha. "You said I was obsessed. You said I was trying to tear him down." Then I turned toward the victims, inviting them forward. "Tell them." The older woman stepped up first, clutching a manila envelope. "He told me Ezra would back the loan. Said it was a family-run fund for people in need. He looked me in the eye and said I was safe." The others followed, each with their own story, each with proof. Faces flushed with humiliation, voices shaking with quiet fury. Samantha's expression cracked. Her eyes darted between them, then to Wyatt. "Tell me this isn't true." Wyatt tried to speak, but his throat made a noise that didn't quite become a word. Isla sank into the arm of the couch like her spine had turned to jelly. "Wyatt, please tell me you didn't do this." But the silence said everything. That's when Samantha finally cracked. "You son of a," she started, turning on him. "How long? How long have you been lying to all of us?" Wyatt held up a hand like that would stop the avalanche, but it was too late. The room turned. The smirk was gone. The confidence drained. He looked small, trapped, exposed. I stepped back, arms crossed, watching it all unfold. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel smug. I just felt done. "You wanted a confrontation," I said. "Here it is. All the people you hurt. Everything you tried to hide. This is your mess now." Wyatt tried to speak. One last attempt. "Ezra, come on." But I held up a hand. "No, you don't get to say my name." And with that, I walked out of the room and left them all in it. I didn't need to yell. The truth had spoken loud enough. The arrest came 2 days later. I didn't go to the house. Didn't need to. Mila texted me a link to the local news segment that morning, a short video of Wyatt being led out of Samantha's front door in handcuffs, his head down, wearing that same button-up shirt he'd worn to my place like he was still trying to dress up his lies. The story spread fast. Tempe man accused of defrauding multiple victims under fake loan scheme. Photos. Footage. Quotes from victims. The segment even mentioned me by name, not in detail, but enough to clarify I had cooperated with investigators and had no knowledge or consent of Wyatt's actions. It was surreal watching it unfold from my couch, a lukewarm coffee in one hand and the morning sun pouring through the blinds. I felt still. Not numb. Not vengeful. Just still. Like the world had finally stopped spinning. The fallout came hard and fast. By noon, Samantha was calling. I didn't answer, but I did listen to the voicemail. "Ezra, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. He told me the business was legit. I'm sorry. I don't know what to say anymore." There were tears in her voice. Real ones, I think. By the end of the week, she sent another message, a long text where she finally admitted what I'd been waiting years to hear. "I should have believed you. I enabled him. I wanted to believe he was better than this because admitting the truth meant admitting I was part of it too. I'm sorry." I didn't respond. Because forgiveness takes time. And trust? That takes even longer. Mom called too. Left a voicemail that felt like it had been rehearsed in the mirror. "I'm devastated, Ezra. I never imagined he was capable of this. Your sister's heartbroken. I'm heartbroken. But I understand why you did what you did. I hope someday we can fix this. For once, there was no scolding, no guilt tripping, just quiet regret. The headlines kept coming. Wyatt's fake LLCs. His second phone. The second girlfriend, who, it turns out, was already pregnant. His double life was splashed across every local blog and social feed. Even the victims started getting support from local nonprofits once the news broke. His empire of lies crumbled faster than I expected. And me? I didn't feel the need to tell anyone, I told you so. Because this wasn't about being right. It was about being free. I no longer owed anyone an explanation. I no longer had to sit in rooms where people made jokes at my expense. I no longer had to keep the peace just because I was scared of being cast out. That part of my life, the part where I was the family fixer, the wallet, the buffer between dysfunction and consequence, that part was over. I hadn't set out to destroy Wyatt. I had set out to protect myself. The destruction? He brought that on himself. And watching it happen, knowing I didn't have to carry it anymore, that was the closure I didn't even know I needed. 6 months later, I was standing on the back deck of my vacation home in Flagstaff, the same one Wyatt had secretly rented out like it was his own, watching Mila sip coffee in a thick sweater that swallowed her arms. We were engaged now. The ring hadn't been flashy. Mila didn't want diamonds or grand gestures. Just something simple, meaningful. We picked it together after brunch one Sunday. And now we were planning the wedding, just us, no big crowds, no extended family drama. Peaceful. The house had changed too. It used to feel like baggage. Every room reminded me of what Wyatt had touched, twisted. Now, it felt like mine again. Ours. Clean slate. That morning, I walked through each room one more time, just soaking in the silence. There were no overdue bills. No unexpected guests. No background noise buzzing with guilt and resentment. Just quiet. Later that afternoon, Mila asked if I wanted to invite anyone from my family to the wedding. I thought about it. For a full minute, I really did. Then I shook my head. No. She nodded, no judgment. Just understanding. Because that part of my life was over. I still got the occasional text from Samantha. Not often. Just every couple months. Usually something vague and polite, like she was trying to re-enter my life without saying the words, "I'm sorry," again. Mom stopped trying after the third letter I never opened. I hadn't blocked either of them. I just stopped replying. Not to punish them. Not to be petty. But because I had nothing left to give. No more emotional extensions. No more loans, literal or otherwise. A few weeks before the trip, I sent one final group text to Samantha and Mom. No explanation. No apology. No room for negotiation. I watched the message sit there, delivered, but never marked, read. That was fine. Maybe they understood. Maybe they didn't. Didn't matter. Because for the first time in my life, I was no longer tethered to anyone else's definition of family, of duty, of being a good son, or keeping things civil. My story with him had ended, and I didn't need a dramatic finale. I didn't need revenge or reconciliation. Just distance. Just peace. On the night of our engagement dinner, Mila made a toast. She kept it short, just the way I like things now. To new beginnings, she said, raising her glass. I looked around the room. Small group. Just real friends. Chosen family. No pretense. I raised my glass too. To closing old accounts, I added. Laughter. Clinks of glasses. Smiles that weren't hiding anything. And just like that, I let the past go. Not with a bang. Not with bitterness. But with a quiet kind of joy. Because the best part about starting over isn't what you build. It's what you leave behind.